we're probably not going to make it out of here. But fortunately, Scott is as awesome as I say he was. He got up and he kept firing. Right, he did a little check, like, okay, body armor did what it's supposed to, and got back up. He's left-handed, right? So he's got that buttstock in his left shoulder, and he's going to work, man. And I was thinking, wow, man, that's my guy. And as soon as I thought that, within a minute after that, I see that left shoulder just fillet off the backside because he got shot in his shoulder. And that's when he really went down. And that's when I really thought, okay, we're going to die today, right? I'm shot. Luis is shot. Dylan's shot. Now Scott's shot. We're on the side of this mountain. Again, 270 degrees of people, of bad guys shooting at us. This is 4 hours into a fight. If we ain't getting out of here now, we dang sure not. If we couldn't get them two out, now we can't get me out. What are we going to do? And
obviously, for those listening, this is what we call a hot LZ. Helicopter's not going to come land there.
Exactly.
There's not an aircraft that's going to land there. You got to move.
You got to move, right? And well, in us, they couldn't even get on the mountain, right? Mm-hmm. We got to get off the mountain before we can get into that hot LZ, and which we can get to in a little bit. But I didn't realize until recently, by the way. So we, myself, Dave, and Matt Williams were interviewed on a Paramount Plus show that's going to air this year. And I didn't realize it at the time, but this was the first time Matt and I and Dave had ever really talked about it. And getting his perspective, Matt's perspective, obviously Dave was right there with me, but to get Matt's perspective, because again, thinking about we're going up and down these terraces, and Matt says, John, I never will forget, like, hearing you above that terrace and knowing if I go up there, we're both going to die. Right. So think about that decision that he has to make. Potentially let his brother die to try to get him out at a different time.
Yeah.
Right. Because obviously I didn't have that wherewithal as we're on this mountain right there with Scott getting shot. And that was a perspective that I never knew, because Matt was going up and down this mountain the whole time trying to help out with us. And fortunately, after Scott was shot, the powers that be above us, back at the TOC, which is a Tactical Operations Center, right back in Jalalabad, or even at Bagram, where the commander of the JSOC, of the CJSOTF was, Command Joint Task Force, was with all of us injured. That's when they took the gloves off and pretty much diverted every air asset in theater to our location. And that's when they really started dropping ordnance. Right. Yeah. Before it was, close air support, as Zach called it in, but now they're really dropping JDAMs on top of this. Right. And which is good. Mm-hmm. Right. What's not good is when you drop a 2,000-pound bomb 100 feet above a bunch of guys, now you've got rocks and boulders falling down the mountain.
On top of you guys.
On top of you. Like Dylan actually got his intestines ruptured from a rock hitting. Right. So think about, that's how we got off. We drop a bomb. And I guess for the listeners, if that doesn't ring a bell, or that's not significant to you, it's huge.
Yeah.
Right. Danger close for a 2,000-pound JDAM is over 1,000 meters. Right. So that's over 10 football fields stacked end to end. Mm-hmm. And they were dropping them 100 yards on top of our heads. Yeah. Right. So think about the explosion that we witnessed that close. And so getting off the mountain, that's what we would do. We would drop a bomb and then essentially fall off the backside of a cliff, right? Because the goat trail climbing up those terraces, that was the easy way up, right? But obviously, we can't go that way, because Matt told me another thing when we were getting interviewed, that Seth, another guy, so Matt and Seth made it 10, so those were the 10 that were on the mountain, 8 of us and those 2. Seth was like, Matt, we got to go right there. And Matt's like, every single person that went that way has been shot. You want to go there? Yeah. I mean, think about, that statement that you have to make and call that you have to make at the time. And so what we would do, we would just drop a bomb, fall off the backside of the cliff 10, 15, 20 feet.
You have your leg hanging off.
I forgot to tell this point. At one point, I literally grabbed my leg, I folded up in my crotch, and I held it between my thighs. Like I literally carried my leg down the mountain. because it was so severely injured, right? And you know, I remember thinking, you know, it's the hardest thing I've ever done because I've lost so much blood. This is, you know, 3 hours after, so now we're 6 hours into me, 6 hours into the firefight, 3 hours into me after me being shot. Chad, it was the hardest thing that I could do, just scoot my butt to that edge. Right. And I'm a pretty in shape guy, right? Humbly speaking. And you know, I tell everybody, you know, that was one of the feelings of, I know what it feels like to die. Right. I know, and it's not scary, by the way. Right. The feeling of death is comforting. The feeling of death is a way out, right? The feeling of death is closure, something that when you are living in that much pain, it's not a scary thing. You know, I always think about the conversation that I had with God. You know, I said, God, this is all I got. Right. I can't do this by myself. And this, it wasn't a dramatic, like you would see in the movies with me looking up and you know, arms stretched out or anything like this. But it was a absolute literal conversation in my head as I'm trying to, you know, get to that next point. God, I got nothing left. If I make it out of here is because you deem possible. Right. And literally thinking of my kids being raised by another man. Right. Thinking my wife being with another man, thinking of what it would be like with me not in their lives, you know, and just thinking, you know, this pain will go away if you just go to sleep. Right. That this pain will go away if you just lay back and just go to bed. That's the best way. Just go to bed, man. Put your head back there, you know, do the old rucksack flop that we all know well, and just close your eyes, man. Let it just happen. And, you know, when I had that conversation with God, I was like, I'm giving this all that I have. That way I know if I make it out of here, it's because of you. It's not because of me. And that's what I did. I just kept fighting. I kept going as hard as I could. And we fell at the base of the mountain. And finally, at that point, we called in, you know, the first Medevac bird. And think about what it was like, that Medevac bird, you know, coming into this location. Well, first of all, we had to get to a clear LZ because at the base of the mountain, they can't, you know, land that close.
Right.
So we actually got drugged through a river, which I thought I was going to die of hypothermia, right? Because at 10,000 feet above sea level, early April, if you ever been in the mountains,
yes,
it's snow, baby.
It's very cold there.
Very cold there. And yeah, it was, which I think helped me stay alive, right? Because it keeps your battery, you know, charged.
Who was dragging you?
At that point, there was a couple guys that was dragging me, like 3 or 4. Since we're at the base of the mountain, we had all the guys. So either Seth, Matt, Ryan, my junior, I love Callie, you know, or any of the guys that was with me. The team was, and they drugged me through that water to the LZ. And looking up at, you know, you see that red cross at the bottom of that helicopter, and it's coming down. You know, Scott's got his arm bandaged up, his right hand's reached out, looked upward, trying to grab the bottom of that of that helicopter to get it down there. Well, the plane or the helicopter takes off. We actually have audio that I can play for you, where it's the pilot saying, "I'm hit, I'm going south." Like the pilot literally was shot.
The helicopter or the pilot?
Both.
Both. Okay.
Right, so they were getting shot by, you know, again 270 degrees by.
Yeah.
But so that helicopter flies away, and so now here we are getting shot at again in the middle of this wadi. So I get drugged back through that water, got another bath, the OG cold plunge, right? Go through there
Wake you up.
and go to the base of the mountain, and the next helicopter to get us out. I mean, they land at the base of the mountain. So if you can imagine all the chaos that is from the rotors next to the mountain and all the rotor wash and rounds impacting the helicopter. And they, you know, quite literally guys threw each other's off, threw us on. And when we started lifting up, you know, I was like, thank God we're finally getting out of there. And as soon as I thought that, I mean, we're probably, you know, 4 or 5 minutes into this helicopter ride, and I hear beep, 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 like we had to do a crash landing.